You've probably seen news stories recently about billionaires spending millions of dollars to build underground bunkers in anticipation of a worldwide catastrophe. They talk about things like AI panic and pandemics and climate change as reasons why these bunkers are necessary, and maybe that's part of it. But based on the evidence, I think the people at the top know something the rest of us don't. The evidence shows that they are worried about something else that is far stranger and much more serious. Over the last couple of years, serious scientists have quietly been gathering data that shows that the Earth is entering into the early stages of something called a geomagnetic pole shift. Technically, that means that the planet's magnetic field is weakening and the poles are starting to drift. I know that's a little confusing when you first hear it, and I'll explain what that means in more detail later. But what's odd is this isn't the first time a pole shift like this has happened. This particular type of global reset was probably one of the reasons why the last ice age ended. And pole shifts like this have been described and recorded in prophecies and religions going back thousands of years. And the details from these old accounts line up almost exactly with the new data that we are getting and the way our global elites are acting right now. This story covers everything from CIA black budget studies to Cold War bunkers and even religious visionaries who insist that civilizations go through global resets based on repeating time cycles. That is what we're looking at today. The overlaps between these worlds and whether the people at the top are actually worried about climate change or if they are quietly listening to the warnings of prophets and eccentrics they told the rest of us to ignore.
You can really go down a deep rabbit hole if you read about ice ages, and even where the poles are has shifted over time.
If you want to know what the people in charge are actually worried about, you can't listen to what they say. You have to look at what they do and especially how they spend their money. And quietly, they are spending a lot of money to get underground. Billionaires like Zuckerberg, Sam Altman, Peter Thiel, and Bill Gates are spending enormous amounts of money to build their own fortified compounds that are designed to keep a small group of people alive for years after a major disaster. These bunkers are complete with their own food sources, water, and air filtration systems. And it's not just bunkers. Jeff Bezos just paid to have a clock installed inside of a mountain that is supposed to run for 10,000 years. If you take this project on its face, it's a silly thing to spend money on. But it makes a lot more sense if you believe there is a real chance that humanity will lose track of time completely in the near future. The US government also seems to be preparing for something similar because they continue to maintain the Cheyenne Mountain complex in Colorado, which was originally built during the Cold War. If you are unfamiliar with Cheyenne Mountain, it is an underground military base located deep inside of a mountain, way above sea level. And just like the bunkers, it is completely autonomous. It's designed to keep a large group of people alive for years while locked inside. Officially, it is maintained in case there is a nuclear war. But unofficially, it is the perfect bunker to protect you from a dramatic rise in sea level, a polluted atmosphere, or a complete power grid failure. Governments also seem to be making plans to repopulate the Earth. Up near the Arctic Circle, you will find a concrete door built into the side of a mountain that guards something called the Global Seed Vault. It is a backup archive of more than 1 million crop varieties that could be used to reseed the entire planet if all life on Earth went away. It's also interesting that they chose to put this seed vault in the Arctic Circle since not much can grow there. Seems to me that one of the only reasons you would do that is because you expect the conditions in that region to change in the near future. So with all of this information, the real question is, what are they preparing for? To answer that question, we need to look at the Earth's magnetic field. In simple terms, the Earth acts like a giant magnet because of the molten iron spinning deep inside of its core. This magnetic field is what makes compasses point north. And it also acts like a shield that protects us from harmful radiation from the sun or deep space. Scientists have been tracking the path of this magnetic field for a while, and the data is changing. The field has weakened by about 40% over the last couple of years, which is extremely strange. And on top of that, The North Pole has been drifting away from Canada towards Siberia. Most scientists will tell you this is just a part of a normal, slow, natural cycle and it's nothing to panic about. But not everybody agrees with that. There are declassified CIA files that argue that if the magnetic field weakens too fast, the outer shell of the Earth could completely slip away from the molten core. And if this were to happen, you would see a rapid destruction of the Earth. You're talking about tsunamis that wipe out continents, worldwide flooding, and massive earthquakes. And because the magnetic field would not be protecting us from the sun's rays or deep space, the power grid and every satellite we have ever launched would go down at the same time. Now, I'm not knowledgeable enough to know if these alternative theories are scientifically sound, but to me, it looks like the exact scenario that these bunkers and seed vaults were designed for. Strangely, if you go back about 100 years, you will find people describing this exact scenario, but using completely different language. One of the best examples is Edgar Cayce, who is probably the most well-known American psychic. Between 1901 and 1945, he gave thousands of trance readings on everything that you could possibly imagine. But during that time, he also gave several warnings about a coming disaster involving the Earth's magnetic poles. He said the hospitable zones of the Earth where people live would shift away from the equator towards the North and South poles. But Cayce didn't see this as a one-time event. He linked it to repeating cycles of time that govern the Earth. In his telling, we were already aware of these cycles because they had been recorded and written about in stories like the flood of Noah and the destruction of Atlantis. He also tied these cycles directly to Egypt. In his readings, priests from Atlantis became aware that a cataclysm was coming, and before it hit, they made their way to Egypt and built an underground bunker beneath the Giza plateau. It was designed to store their knowledge so it wouldn't be lost in the coming cataclysm. He called it the Hall of Records, and he said it was buried somewhere underneath the Sphinx. And according to Cayce, this chamber, the Hall of Records, would be opened right before the next civilization began. This prophecy about the Hall of Records is important because in the last few years, an Italian radar engineer named Filippo Biondi has used a new kind of satellite scanning on the Giza plateau. It's called synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography. And instead of bouncing radio waves off of the surface, his team measures tiny vibrations in the ground, and then they use that data to build three-dimensional images of what's underneath the pyramids. Their scans show what appears to be 8 massive hollow shafts dropping straight down from the base of the pyramid. And they also see structures below the Sphinx as well. Biondi describes the pyramids as the hat that sits on top of a huge underground structure. This discovery, paired with Cayce's readings that the Hall of Records would be opened before the next age, is shocking. And what makes this story even stranger is that these same prophecies show up in Catholic miracles and modern UFO encounters. In 1917, 3 children in Fatima, Portugal reported seeing a glowing woman who turned out to be the Virgin Mary. She gave these children 3 secrets. The first 2 secrets were made public in the 1940s, and they were about the reality of hell in World War II. The third secret was supposed to be released in 1960, but the Vatican read it and they decided to keep it sealed. They didn't publish it until the year 2000, and many Catholics believe that the third secret that they released was incomplete or heavily edited. But one of the children, who later became a nun, kept a private diary where she described a vision about the third secret that sounds a lot like a pole shift. In that diary, she wrote, "The tip of the spear, like a flame that comes loose, touches the axis of the earth, and it trembles. Mountains, cities, towns, and villages, with their inhabitants, are buried. The sea, the rivers, and the clouds go out of their boundaries, overflowing, flooding and dragging with them in a whirlwind houses and people without number, who cannot be counted. It is the purification of the world from the sin in which it is immersed." Now you can read that as purely symbolic language about God's judgment, or you can take it literally. And if you take it literally, She's describing something striking the Earth's axis, followed by worldwide flooding and mass death. That's almost exactly what scientists say would happen during a pole shift. And then there is a modern case that sits right on the border between Marian apparition and a UFO encounter. Chris Bledsoe is a contractor from North Carolina who claims that he's been in contact with non-human beings for years. I know that sounds ridiculous, and he has been ridiculed for his story for years. But many of his claims have now been verified, so much so that NASA scientists and people in the intelligence community now work with him directly on a regular basis. If you want to know Chris's full story, he did a long interview on the Sean Ryan show that is worth watching. But here is why it matters for this story. The central figure in his experiences is not a gray alien. It is a radiant woman who appears to him and gives him warnings and signs about the future. And her most important warning to Chris was that when the star Regulus, the King's Star, aligns with the Great Sphinx just before dawn, a new era will begin and hidden knowledge will be revealed on Earth. And according to star charts, that alignment happens on Easter of this year.
What else do you know?
It's a dark force. Because she told me, well, I'll tell you what she told me. This is what I put in writing, part of it. She said there are people in power. They're script in the book of Revelation to bring about Armageddon and the end of the world.
Who is they?
I don't know who they are. I think they're Satanists. I think they're people that worship the dark force, that don't care for humanity and human life. It's a very dark force that is living dark entities that feed on you parasitically, like they shape shift, they take your mind over, they make you do crazy things, they deceive you.
What will happen?
The star will, the alignment she told me about, that the star of Regulus would be on the horizon in front of the Sphinx. At that moment, there'd be a new knowledge. Well, I had no idea if this was even possible, but these astronomers run it through the machines and it comes out that star is going to come up on the horizon in Easter of 2026.
So as it stands right now, you have Edgar Cayce describing buried records under the Sphinx, radar scans that seem to show underground bunkers beneath the Giza Plateau, a Catholic nun describing what sounds like a pole shift, and a modern UFO contactee being told by a radiant woman to watch for a star aligning with the Sphinx as the signal that a new age has begun. While all of this is playing out on the visionary side, there are strange coincidences on the official side too. In 2019, President Trump created a new branch of the military called the Space Force. Specialty Units Space Delta 18 uses an emblem that shows the Sphinx sitting on top of a globe, staring up at a bright 8-pointed star above its head. This symbol depicts exactly what Chris Bledsoe described. Every one of these things could be written off as a coincidence on its own. But that is a lot of coincidences that stretch across hundreds of years of prophecy, thousands of years of religion, and classified government material. At some point, coincidences become a pattern. I don't know if a pole shift is coming or if the Hall of Records is real. What I do know is that the people with the most money and the best information on planet Earth are acting like something big is coming. They are building autonomous underground bases, storing seeds in frozen mountains, and putting ancient symbols on military emblems. And they're not explaining why. Maybe all of this means nothing, or maybe the people who see classified information are far more comfortable with prophecy and ancient warnings than they would ever admit in public. If you are new here, my name is Taylor McMahon, and if you want to hear more stories about the lost and forgotten parts of our world, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.